1983, the Los Angeles Rams ended a 2-year drought and returned to their customary role of playoff contender. It was a season of remarkable moments, achieved by a group of remarkable men. It's the story of an ex-college coach who won friends as well as ball games. It's about the men he led, young athletes of astonishing talent. And old pros reborn. Together they made 1983 a memorable season. A season that brought the Rams back to respectability, back to the playoffs, back to where they belong. The Rams' 1983 season ended on the first day of 1984, when Los Angeles was beaten by the defending world champion Washington Redskins in the second round of the playoffs. Despite this defeat, the Rams had much to be proud of, as their coach placed the entire season, not just one day, in its proper perspective.
You put yourself on the line so dramatically at this level. Week after week, you've got your hands full, and what can be 2 great weeks can just come apart in the 3rd week. A football team really lives for only 1 year, and you've got to enjoy that life, that year. Now you start again, and you hope there's carryover, but basically that's it, and you have to enjoy it on that basis. I think you got to go in and say, I love doing this, and it brings me pleasure every day to do it. I'm not sure if I'd do this for free, but I'd sure as hell do it for a lot less.
In his inaugural season as coach of the Rams, John Robinson's infectious enthusiasm restored confidence and unity to his players, while earning their immediate respect.
John Robinson is a good motivator. He's a good teacher. He's a good strategist. I've been very much impressed with his ability to come into the National Football League, where he's dealing with a much different caliber of football player, first of all, and then a different style of play. John Robinson has that ability to talk us through things.
I'm a great believer in environments and that people do well when they're confident and when they feel secure. I think Georgia's done an excellent job in creating an environment where she genuinely cares about the individuals that are there. I think she's also been able to stabilize what's going on so that we're in some sense of a rhythm. We are making great strides in becoming one of those steady franchises that make the right kind of move.
With strong leadership at the top, the Rams strode purposefully into the new season and earned their rookie coach a win in the very first game of 1983. Against the New York Giants, the Ram passing game was in peak form as 2 Vince Ferragamo to Mike Barber touchdowns forged an impressive opening day victory. A major contribution came from battle-scarred defensive captain Jack Youngblood, who began his 13th NFL campaign in glorious fashion. Youngblood fought off the bumps and bruises of a dozen previous seasons to carry on the tradition of the great Ram defensive fronts of the past.
I used my experience more than I do my physical ability. I relied more on finesse and quickness. That's the way I was taught. Deacon taught me that, and Merlin taught me that.
Ram cover 4.
Here we go now. Let's get it done, let's get it done, let's get it done. All right, rock!
288, Sam, punt! You better be easy on the old man now.
This was one old man who needed no sympathy. Young blood gave as good as he got while leading the Rams in quarterback sacks. Young blood was part of a core of veterans who provided leadership. Other polished pros could be found in the league's premier offensive line, a unit that allowed the fewest sacks in the NFL. 9-year veterans Dennis Harrah and Bill Bain were the senior members of a line that included Pro Bowl selections Kent Hill and Jackie Slater. Anchoring the line at center was sledgehammer Doug Smith. Along with seasoned pros, David Hill and team receiving leader Mike Barber at tight end, the team front wall was long on both experience and quality. This reservoir of tested talent gave John Robinson an important advantage, and the Rams would need every edge they could muster in a string of early season nail biters. There were no breathers in the early game. In Week 6, the 49ers fell when Chuck Nelson hit a late fourth quarter field goal. A week later, Mike Gooman's 11th hour touchdown beat the Falcons. In a revamped offensive formation, Gooman was assigned the dirty but necessary jobs no one else wanted. As a blocker and safety valve receiver, Gooman, the up-back, toiled in the flat so that the glamour boys of the deep game could prosper. Quarterback Vince Ferragamo looked to a receiving core that offered the right target for any occasion. Whether the situation called for a swift fly pattern or a carefully crafted route through the crowded middle, Ram receivers were equal to the task. In his first full season directing the offense, Ferragamo set new Ram records for pass attempts, completions, and yardage. Rookies Henry Ellard, James McDonald, and Otis Grant found their niche alongside veterans Gordon Jones, Preston Dennard, and George Farmer to form the most productive passing attack in Ram history. The Ram receivers may not have been household names outside of Los Angeles, but they quickly became familiar to a nationwide television audience in the season's 11th week. On a rainy night in Georgia, the Rams soared to the top of the NFC West on the strength of a passing game that could do no wrong.
Hill comes in motion off the right wing. Back to throw. Ferragamo on first down. Going deep down the left side for Dennard. He's there. And he's at the 10, to the 5, and it's a touchdown. 61 yards.
Rookie running sensation Eric Dickerson rushed for 2 more touchdowns, then stepped aside as Barry Redden wrapped up the route.
Pitch back to Redden, wants to turn left, does. 40, 35, 30, 25, 20. Redden down to the 15, 10, 5, touchdown.
If there had been any doubts about the return of the Rams in '83, this game dispelled them. Los Angeles was now back and in the playoff hunt to stay. With the return of the Rams to their winning ways, fans at Anaheim Stadium frolicked. Football was fun again. Like their Hollywood film counterparts, Ram autographs were in heavy demand. The fans admired their heroes for both their athletic abilities as well as their ingenuity.
Stenerud has a teed at the 35. Kick a little squibber coming up the left side, a couple of bounds.
and finally flipped back off there to Carpenter, off there to Simmons. They're running it wide to the right side. Simmons now looking for some help, running way back to the left. He fires a pass up to the left side. He can't do that, so it's all over. Regardless what happens, they're going to run a little flea flicker all over the place, back to Tom, to A.J. Jones.
The special teams epitomize these Rams, a resilient bunch that never quit, nor did they back down when facing a challenge. In 1983, many Rams were asked to star in new roles on both lines of scrimmage. The offense changed its formation, and so did the defense. After years of fearsome foursomes, the Rams switched to the 3-4 alignment. In this set, a nose tackle like Charles Dejournay was called on to tie up one or more blockers, giving Ram linebackers a clear path to the ball carrier. The nose tackle also needed speed and lateral agility, skills that number 69, Greg Meisner, possessed. With the inside pursuit in good hands, defensive ends Youngblood, Gary Jeter, and Reggie Doss took care of everything else. Coaches went to the 3-4 because they felt they had linebackers capable of playing it well. The Ram coaches were absolutely right. Mel Owens, Jim Collins, Carl Eckern, and George Andrews gave the Rams one of the league's toughest run defenses and made things uncomfortable for quarterbacks as well. Hard-hitting Rams secondary was completely overhauled from the previous season, with trade acquisitions and familiar faces in new places. But Eric Harris, Kirk Collins, and Leroy Irvin more than held their own against the league's best. One leader of the secondary was strong safety Nolan Cromwell, a first-team All-Pro who was Hollywood handsome and Dodge City tough. Joining Cromwell in the defensive backfield was number 20, Johnny Johnson, an emerging star who swiped 4 passes and brought 2 back for touchdowns, setting a team record. Even with adjustments in personnel and formations, the Rams' defense became a team strength. But the biggest change of all came on offense, where a runaway locomotive named Dickerson roared out of the station and never looked back.
Ran to the left side, wide of the right bomber, pitch back to Dickerson, turns left, cuts inside, out to the 30, 35 to the 40, to the 45, to the 50, down to the 35, down to the 25, down to the 10, 5, touchdown, Eric Dickerson, 85 yards.
Eric came to the Rams as the most heralded college runner in years, and by the end of '83, no less an authority than O.J. Simpson called him the greatest runner I've ever seen. Dickerson led the league with over 1,800 rushing yards, the most ever by a rookie. He set a record for rushing attempts, scored 20 touchdowns, and this may be only the beginning.
He's got all the ability in the world. Basically, if he really sets his mind to doing something, he can do whatever he wants. He's big, he's strong, he runs fast. Eric's feet are so fast, it makes it very difficult for a tackler to come up and tackle him in the open field. When you have a back like Eric Dickerson in the backfield, it really opens up the offense as far as the passing game is concerned, and when you're definitely running the ball well, it's going to open everything up.
Eric is so elusive. He's the type of guy that, although their plays designed to go certain places, he's the type of guy he's always looking. He's always looking for that opening, He takes his body where the play is designed to go, but his eyes and his head are looking in other areas for other alternatives where he can take advantage of it.
When asked to create a self-portrait, Dickerson is direct and to the point.
Keep on his tough inside and just try to contain it, because if he breaks, it's all over. That's what I'd say.
Dickerson personally accounted for over 40% of the Rams' total offense. In this era of impact players, no other athlete in football had a greater effect on his team's performance than Eric the Ram. The fans were now pointing to the playoffs. But first, John Robinson's Rams would need to earn some wins in the final weeks. Their first opportunity came in Philadelphia.
That's a baby. That's a trick, isn't it? That's a trick. Adam on the powers. Nice. Pretty. He's just getting started. Just getting warmed up. Nice job, Eric.
But Robinson's disposition quickly changed as the game began to turn.
He's inbound. Oh, no! Oh, no! Hey, no, he was tackled inbounds. Oh, he's tackled inbounds.
It's a bang-banger.
A bang-banger?
Well, I mean, he goes bang.
The ball landed right there.
Don't get excited, John.
I know, that makes me look good.
Then, with only seconds to play, the Eagles stole a win from Los Angeles.
Nice game, man. Nice job. Good job. Good job, Marion.
As the Rams entered the season's final week, they still needed a victory. And their last opponent would, in a sense, be their toughest foe of the year. The New Orleans Saints took the Superdome field in hopes of clinching their first playoff berth in team history. The Rams were outnumbered by both a team and a town on a crusade. But a young blood safety and big plays from the defense and special teams quickly quieted the Bayou faithful.
Erxleben gets the snap, hits it from his 25, short. Coming under it, Ellard at his 28, up the left side 30, 35, Ellard at the 40, 45, 50, to the 45, 40, 35's got to beat Erxleben, to the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, touchdown! 72-yard return. Good low wide to the left, back to throw. Stabler dumps it off, intercepted by Johnny Johnson at the 30. He's going to go in for the touchdown, and does. Johnny Johnson took it in at the 30-yard line and picks up the touchdown. Back to throw, Wilson pressured, fires up and into the middle, picked off by the Rams, Nolan Cromwell. He's going to go for the touchdown, down to the 5 and into the end zone.
Despite such heroics, the Rams still found themselves trailing the hometown Saints late in the game.
So now it's down to 151. They'll have to reach back and get something.
Here come the Rams, down by a point, 80 yards away.
Against the NFC's best defense, quarterback Vince Ferragamo engineered the most important drive of 1983. At stake, a winning season and a trip to the playoffs.
Is there a chance for the Rams with 6 seconds to go? Mike Lansford, the 42-yard try. The kick is up, long, high, and it is gone!
After 2 seasons of frustration, the Los Angeles Rams were winners again and heading for postseason play.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're at Texas Stadium on a cold, cold day here in Dallas as the Rams prepare to take on the Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys don't lose playoff games in Texas Stadium, and few felt that they would be beaten by the Rams. But L.A. took charge on its first possession as Lone Star State native Eric Dickerson ripped through the Cowboys like a Texas tornado. In a smartly executed opening drive, the Rams ran first, then crossed up the Cowboys with a touchdown pass from Ferragamo to David Hill. It wasn't pretty, but like everything else this day, it worked. For nearly the rest of the half, the Ram defense put a stop to any further scoring.
Come on, defense! Let's go, Steve!
The shocked Dallas fans could hardly believe their eyes, and the Rams were just warming up.
Vince goes back to throw, looking, firing up and out to the left side. A diving grab for the touchdown by Preston Denard. Farmer out wide to the right, back to throw Ferragamo on second down. Pumps and looks and fires. Caught for the touchdown by George Farmer.
When Dallas tried to rally, the Ram defense cut them off at every turn. Finally, in the fourth quarter, one more spectacular play pounded the final nail into the Cowboy coffin.
Danny White takes the snap, back to throw, sets, fires up, and intercepted by Leroy Irvin. Back to the 10, to the 15, to the 20. Irvin back to the 25, to the 30. On his feet at the 35, to the 40, 45, 50, to the 40, to the 35. Down to the 15, to the 10, down to the 3-yard line.
With Leroy Irvin's scintillating interception, Dallas was done. But this game had greater implications than simply an upset victory. The Rams' 2-year slump was now long forgotten. This team was back among the best in the league.
It was one of the finest seasons in the 64-year history of the National Football League. In all of professional sports, no other league packs so much excitement and drama into game day.
All right, Bunch, here's a chance. We got the ball first. Now, let's get a block. Let me kick off. Let's bring it out. Let's have some fun. Let's go.
As always, there were dominant players and dominant teams. Never in the league's history has a championship chase been at the fingertips of so many. The Detroit Lions rode the enthusiasm and talent of running back Billy Sims, number 20, to their first division championship since 1957. Another inspirational performance was turned in by Atlanta's Billy Johnson, number 81, who was named the comeback player of 1983. After 2 knee operations as a Houston Oiler, a brief stint in Canada, and a year on the bench in Atlanta, it seemed that the career of Billy White Shoes was over. But in 1983, number 81 destroyed such notions with a season so stunning it made believers of dreamers everywhere.
Now they've got to go to the end zone with 2 seconds left.
Are we talking Hail Mary, or are we talking reception and lateral?
I would say right here, you've got to go to Billy White Shoes and let him do a little dance with the ball and try to go for the end zone. Here come the Falcons with Hodge, Bailey, and Johnson, all to the left side. 2 seconds remain. 49ers will come with a 3-man rush. Bartkowski to throw. He is going long down the near sideline. It's going to be a jump ball, and it is pulled down by Billy Johnson. Johnson inside the 10, 5. He is down. He is. Give it to him. He's in. Touchdown! Touchdown, Atlanta. Billy Johnson. It's a touchdown.
No time on the clock.
The Falcons have won it. They pulled it from nowhere. The Falcons have won it. Big Ben left, and it worked.
Full moon over Atlanta, Fulton County Stadium. Shoes did his thing.
Billy White Shoes Johnson, a touchdown.
Once he caught it, he had no place to go. He got inside the 5, looked for daylight, and then dove for the end zone.
How about that?
Even though the Atlanta Falcons weren't a team of destiny, thanks to the proven skills of Billy Johnson, they were a team of daring and drama. In Denver, the Broncos were banking on the unproven pro skills of quarterback John Elway, the NFL's #1 draft choice. Number 7 won the starting job during preseason, but when the regular season kicked off, Elway couldn't stand up to the pressure. Denver's complex offense disoriented Elway, and he spent much of his first season just trying to get his bearings. But helped along by head coach Dan Reeves, Elway rebounded and led the Broncos to a wild card playoff berth. Never before has youth played such a part in turning NFL teams around. Running backs Eric Dickerson of the Rams, Kurt Warner of the Seahawks, and quarterback Dan Marino of the Dolphins all were rookies who were instrumental in their team's assault on the playoffs. Miami's Don Shula went with Marino in the season's 5th week, and number 13 responded by leading the AFC in passing, while directing the Dolphins to the AFC Eastern title. Marino gave Miami a deep passing game. Number 29, Eric Dickerson, gave the Rams a running attack and a playoff berth. Eric's 1,808 yards rushing led the NFL and were the highest total by a first-year player in NFL history. His 85-yard touchdown run against the Jets was also the longest run from scrimmage in 1983. The top rusher in the AFC was Seattle's first-round choice Kurt Warner, number 28. Thanks to this versatile and elusive rookie, the Seahawks soared to the first playoff berth in franchise history and made Chuck Knox the first head coach to lead 3 different teams into postseason play.
When the H got over here, they were going to overshift the line, and they were not going to adjust the secondary.
NFL 83 was a season of complexity. On offense, the one-back attack was in, and the defense had to find a way to stop it.
As you read this type of action, you've got to get depth, because they've zipped the Z in so far that he'll be coming in behind you.
Modern defense is formulated around strength in numbers. But one powerful man on the line of scrimmage can still control the game. Outside linebackers like Lawrence Taylor of the Giants and number 53 Hugh Green of the Buccaneers emerged as the most dominant defenders in the game today. Their rare blend of athletic skill destroyed the best laid plans of an offense. In 1983, these and other talented players led a charge that resulted in an NFL record for defensive touchdowns in one season. With offenses spread all over the field and passing the football at a record clip, turnovers turned into touchdowns as defenders found that they could remedy an unfavorable situation with a single blow. Because of this wide-open approach, the pulse of any game could change rapidly. But this was more the result of the NFL's offenses, whose imaginative plans of attack were as deceiving as they were delightful to watch. Not since the pass-happy days of the 1950s have so many spirals filled the air. Green Bay's Lynn Dickey was one of 3 quarterbacks who threw for over 4,000 yards. Atlanta's Steve Bartkowski was the NFL's top-ranked passer. With 92 receptions, Los Angeles Raider tight end Todd Christensen led all receivers. Teams won by passing when they wanted to pass, not when the defense dictated that they could. While 1983 featured great individual talent, only the great teams won.
All right, let's go split right close, 20 paint. 20.
With its one back, 2 tight ends, and pre-snap movement, the Washington Redskin offense, quarterbacked by Joe Theismann, scored 541 points, the highest in NFL history. Their flash dance passing was complemented by bullish John Riggins, who set an NFL record with 24 touchdowns. Armed with the best offense in football and the league's toughest defense to run against, the Redskins bred the conviction in an opponent that they would have to play a perfect game to beat them. Only 2 did, as Washington won 14 regular season games and then 2 more en route to the NFC Championship. The rise of the Redskins over the past 2 seasons has been at the expense of one of the league's most consistent winners, the Dallas Cowboys. In 1983, the Cowboys' shotgun was loaded once again with deadly ammunition. The end zone always seemed in the range of number 33, Tony Dorsett, and number 11, Danny White. On both sides of the football, Dallas could shoot down an opponent, and 12 times in 1983, they did just that. Only Dallas appeared to have the firepower to stop the rampaging Redskins. And in their Monday night season opener, the Cowboys overcame a 23-0 halftime lead to win 31-30. They would win 11 out of their next 13 games and had only to beat Washington at home in the season's 15th Sunday to win the Eastern Division Championship. It began as a typical Cowboy and Redskin shootout. In the first half, the Cowboys were swept under a wave of burgundy that was stirred up by Joe Theismann. But late in the third quarter, with the contest still undecided, the Cowboys faced a 4th and 1. The plan was to lure Washington off sides and never snap the ball. But at the line of scrimmage, Danny White audibled into an off-tackle play that proved to be the downfall of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas was routed 35-10. And 2 weeks later, the Los Angeles Rams kicked the Cowboys right out of the wild card playoffs. Suddenly, Dallas's 18th consecutive winning season and impressive 12-4 record was overshadowed by their failure to get to the Super Bowl. The New Orleans Saints have never been to a Super Bowl. In fact, they have never had a winning season.
One thing I want you to remember, football is only a small part of your life. It ain't life or death out there. All we got to do is go out and do the same thing that we've asked from the first day we started. Do everything as good as you can, and then a little bit more. That's all the hell you got to do.
In his third year as head coach, Bum Phillips rebuilt the Saints into a team that learned how to win. Led by old pro Kenny Stabler, number 16, New Orleans set their sights on something they had always wanted, but never had, a winning year. Much of the excitement stemmed from Bum's defense. The Saints were the NFC's top-ranked defenders, and by the season's final Sunday, New Orleans was but one game away from their elusive dream. Only the Los Angeles Rams stood in their way. Unfortunately, the Saints threw away their golden moment as the Rams scored on a punt return and 2 interceptions. With but 6 seconds remaining, a field goal finally ended Bum's quest of making his Saints winners. And they rode out of 1983 saddled with a record of 8 wins and 8 losses. The Los Angeles Raiders are at the opposite end of the spectrum from the Saints. During the last 20 years, they have been the winningest organization in pro sports. While some suggest that the game has taken on a vanilla flavor as teams seek to avoid mistakes, the Raiders still swing from the heels, regardless of which team has the football. The Raiders' philosophy is simple. Great players make great plays. Led by stars like Marcus Allen, number 32, they proved this by running away with the AFC Western Division title for the 9th time in the last 14 years. Los Angeles Raiders have been so typecast as intimidators and roughnecks that people forget how much genuine talent they have. But in the playoffs, they not only displayed their talent, they also showed that they were a team that knows how to run when the wire is near. The Raiders destroyed the Pittsburgh Steelers 38-10. Then struck 12 on the Cinderella season of the Seattle Seahawks with a 30-14 pounding in the AFC Championship game. Only the Redskins blocked the championship chase of these mighty Raiders.
You guys were magnificent. We played a great football game. We deserve to be the champs and represent this conference. We're going to Tampa, baby. We're going to
Super Bowl 18. The Los Angeles Raiders and the defending world champion Washington Redskins. What seemed to be a perfect matchup quickly turned into a classic mismatch. The Raiders scored immediately, then turned loose their stable of thoroughbreds on the stunned Redskins. Marcus Allen ran for a Super Bowl record 191 yards, and quarterback Jim Plunkett passed the Raiders to a 14-3 lead. Redskins head coach Joe Gibbs watched helplessly as Raiders cornerback single-covered his speedy wide receivers. This freed the corner linebackers from outside pass coverage and allowed them to blitz and pressure Joe Theismann. The Redskin ground game fared even worse as the Raider inside linebackers shut down the inside power running of John Riggins. With but 12 seconds remaining in the half, the Redskins were backed against their own goal line. But instead of running out the clock, they gambled.
I felt that being behind 14-3, I was not comfortable with falling on the ball. I just wasn't going to do that. And as a matter of fact, the statement was made on the sideline, hey, maybe we ought to run a play. And I said, no, we're not. It was my decision. I made it.
Gibbs' decision resulted in Jack Squirick's interception and gave the Raiders a 21-3 halftime lead and ended the competitive phase of Super Bowl 18.
I think that if there had been a way for me to be on that sideline at that point in the game and stop the world right there, and if I could have, at that point, taken a vote from everybody that had been there or been watching on TV, and I think there had been a lot of people said, hey, yeah, let's take a shot, you know, let's give that thing a shot. We don't want to just fall on the ball. We haven't done anything all day. I think there have been a lot of people that would have said that. After it happened, I don't think I can find 5 that would say that, but that's my job.
The Raiders raced to a blowout of unthinkable proportions, a 38-9 victory over the defending world champions.
Plunkett giving to Allen, setting him wide left. He has to reverse his field, but he gets away for a moment. Comes back up to the middle of 40, 25, 40, breaks past 2 men at the 50, down to the 40, picking up a blocker.
It was their 3rd world championship, and they had done it in a style befitting their swashbuckling image. As always, the season belongs to the champion, and 1983 belonged to the Los Angeles Raiders.